Welcome, welcome. Thanks for tuning in, whether you're watching live or tuning in on the replay. It has been quite a day between plumbing emergencies and dental work, but the fix has happened on the leak and the cavity's been filled. So I'm just thrilled that you're spending time with me here again live or watching the replay. And I'm honored you're going to spend a few minutes with me talking about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, stage fright, and how to overcome it. If we haven't met before, my name is Evan Dazunik. I'm the founder of Real-Time Music Academy and the Poised Performer program. And I specialize in helping classically trained musicians who are struggling with anxiety or boredom or burnout rediscover the joy of making music, especially in the moment, and owning their stage. So I'm going to give you a framework, an overview of what we're going to do over the next few minutes together, who this free class is for, and what it's for. What are my intentions for you? A real brief description. We're going to spend just a few moments. I'll share some of the top mistakes either I've made or seen others make in trying to manage their stage fright, and also some solutions for those mistakes. And we'll look at the top 5 together. At the end, if you want, I'll invite you to work further with me. But whether or not you continue with me down this path of working on it, I'm committed to giving you massive value for your time here today in this free class. And my intention is that your mood will move from one of despair or frustration or overwhelm to one of inspiration, that you see a path forward in dealing with your stage fright. So who is this for? This briefly is really for, especially for musicians, especially those trained classically. That's my background. But it's also relevant for actors or dancers or even public speakers. Basically anyone who has some type of gift to share as a performer, but is struggling with performance anxiety, whether that's mild to severe and debilitating or anywhere in between. This is who this is for. And additionally, it's also for any educators who really want to get that edge in looking how to serve their students and those they train in a deeper way, especially as we come out of COVID, hopefully into this post-COVID phase. I really think some people who were struggling with stage fright are going to find it's going to be a real kick in the pants to step back into public performances. And if you hear my son join in the party, just thanks for your patience there. The second thing I want to give is just what is this, the meaning of this time together. I really hope that it'll help you overcome the threats to performances. It can so often debilitate people who may want to take action to perform this stage fright. So those threats not just to your performing career, but also to the joy and the pleasure of making music and sharing it with others. I wanted to also help you fulfill your obligations, not only just for the performances on the books, but for those opportunities you will have, that as things open up and the world gradually opens up even more and more and more, to take those gigs and to step into and take those auditions for performances. And 2 more things. Really, I want this to be valuable for you. I want this to be important, not just to gain a competitive edge as more and more people are stepping into performing, but really enable you to share your gifts live with an audience. I want it to be useful. I don't want it to just be an academic exercise, but me sharing my practical insights from experience, personal experience, professional observation, and obsessive research. And lastly, I want it to be worthwhile. Again, I hope this is a massive value and a return on the time invested in watching this. So I'm honored you're here. And my purpose is that I give you, beyond just some quick tips, I give you really the keys to stop taking ineffective action to manage your own stage fright and help you rapidly start taking action towards performing and your goals for performing, your goals for your career, your goals for your health, the impact stage fright has on your physical health, your goals for connecting with peers or audiences, and your goals just to have fun again on stage. So with that said, let's start. Here are the 5 biggest mistakes I see when people try to manage their own stage fright. The first is people think they're the sole person who struggles with this issue. So these will all be alliterative. The sole struggler. It's really one of the biggest unspoken, I think, dirty secrets of the music field, especially the performance in general. From Pablo Casals to Barbra Streisand to John Lennon. A lot of greats, especially in music across genres, have struggled intensely with massive stage fright. And real briefly, if you don't know my story, I, as a 4-year-old, ran off the stage crying at one of my first public piano recitals. As a middle school trumpet player, I lied about burning my audition form for Allstate. Said it got lost in the mail because I was so nervous to perform. And even just a few years ago, I was performing at a festival and almost went into this sort of black hole spiral when I had a memory slip of a piece I've known for decades. So I know what that's like intimately, to struggle with that. But the thing is, you are not alone if you struggle with this. I really want to shine a light and have people share their stories. The more vulnerable you can be about, hey, I'm struggling with stage fright, or I've struggled with performance anxiety, the more people realize that they are not alone. So the first mistake is thinking you're the sole person struggling with it. And the solution is just to share your story. So if you want, in the comments below, share if you relate to number 1, just put a number 1 in the comments, because I relate to many of these. The second biggest mistake I see people is with substances, abusing substances, whether they're benign or destructive. But anywhere along that spectrum, people I see often want to self-medicate if they don't have better tools for managing their performance anxiety. And that can range from beta blockers, which might seem benign, but I think have some hidden downsides, to stronger things, drugs, alcohol, you fill in the blank. Beta blockers people often take. It's one of the first lines of defense for people who struggle with performance anxiety. But especially if you're a singer or anyone else involved with the breath in making your music, it can have some debilitating effects on that. Whether or not you use the breath in performance, it can often result in some lifeless interpretations if you're using beta blockers. And honestly, it really doesn't address the root psychological causes of stage fright. And again, when I'm talking about stronger self-medication, I'm not talking about just going out for a post-show beer, right? I'm talking about people using and abusing drugs or alcohol in a way to try to cope with their often overwhelming stage fright. And they might be able to get through that gig, but at what cost? It's ending up to be a net negative. And often people find that they think it works, but they're not really counting the full cost on their psychology, on their physical health, and they may not know a better path. So my solution is really to provide some more skillful means for people, including mindfulness, radical acceptance. I'll talk about that in a minute. Those are all part of my Poised Performer program that really get to the heart of those psychological issues. So number 2 is substance abuse. So if you relate to number 2, put number 2 in the comments. Looking at my notes here, number 3 is suppressing the symptoms. I told you these all started with S here. They're alliterative. Suppressing symptoms. I find that when people start to feel some of those symptoms of performance anxiety, maybe the dry mouth, accelerated heart rate, the racing thoughts, things that are often symptoms of your body going into fight, flight, or freeze, right? Thinking there's something really, really dangerous at the end of the performance or right there in the moment. You can often spiral, and then when you try to suppress those physical symptoms or deny them or say, no, 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 here we go again, or that self-talk goes towards, just stop it, that adds to the panic, just like throwing water on a grease fire, all right? I find that trying to control more actually builds into that psychological inflexibility, which is really at the heart of a lot of these issues of performance anxiety. And my solution for that may sound counterintuitive, but it's that sense of radical acceptance, all right? Not necessarily succumbing to those symptoms, but acknowledging, being mindful of them, saying, yes, my pulse is pounding right now, and just being present with it and saying, this is what is, and I'm going to use this as my ally. I'll distance myself from that sensation and the narrative I often wrap up around these symptoms of stage fright. And then I choose to move forward anyway in the face of those feelings that might have once felt overwhelming. One of my favorite lines around this is, fear is simply excitement without the breath. Fear is excitement without the breath. So that sense of learning how to embrace in the moment what you're feeling and still move forward anyway. So number 3 is suppressing the symptoms of stage fright. Again, if you relate, put number 3 in the comments. I've got 2 more here. Number 4 is thinking that you're stuck forever in that stage fright. You may have tried lots of other modes or research, Googling, YouTube, seen somebody about it, tried different things, and maybe feel like nothing has worked and really that nothing will ever change where you're at. That's not only not embracing a growth mindset, but it's really not staying with the findings we're seeing in neuropsychology about neuroplasticity, that sense of our brains, even though we lay down grooves and behavioral patterns, and some of these fight or flight responses go really deep, we do have practices that we can instill that sort of lay down new tracks, that lay down new grooves, and we can build new patterns. So yes, we can teach an old dog new tricks. Change is possible. So if you feel like you're stuck forever, that's not the case. There's a path forward. So put number 4 if you relate to that. And 5, but definitely not least, is trying to pursue a solution solo. So again, I'll talk about how you can work with me, but whether or not you work with me or I'm the right fit for you, I think it's key to have accountability for implementation. There's so much information out there. In fact, a lot of free information is really, really amazing. But I find that information without implementation is completely useless. So find a way to set up, not just going at this solo, but set up some type of accountability for yourself. It could be just a peer who you're honest about and you share and check in once in a while. You could have sort of like a workout buddy where you try some practices of mindfulness, or I find improvisation is one of the biggest ways to overcome stage fright. We can talk about that more if you work with me here. But finding some type of group accountability beyond yourself to really work on overcoming your stage fright and not going at it solo. So that's number 5, thinking you have to find a solution solo. And those, for me, are really the 5 biggest mistakes I see people making when they try to overcome stage fright. I've seen that before. I've succumbed to several of them myself. And if you want to go deeper on all this and are curious about what's further, I want to give you an invite. I'm planning my next group workshop on working with stage fright, and the real outcome for that time together, our quick win, our return on investment, is that at this paid workshop, we're going to create a comprehensive performance ritual. I call it CPR, comprehensive performance ritual, where you set up your own customized plan for before, during, and after a performance. Before, during, and after. And I find there's actually a 9-point sort of set of practices that can help you really own the stage, prepare, be present in the moment, and then sort of anchor those good experiences afterwards, and replace any negative self-talk with much healthier habits. So again, if you're interested in that, just raise your hand, send a comment below, say, yeah, I'll privately message you some information about that, and I'd be happy to invite you to apply to work in my next workshop coming up. I'm looking at that next weekend. But if you have any questions or any comments, feel free to follow up with me. I'm always looking forward to continue the conversation on this and be of service to those, because I've been there, I've struggled with stage fright, I know what it's like, and I just want to see people share their gifts creatively with the world. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you spending time, and I'll catch you soon. Take care.